Good Friday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, I will be tracking a Texas snowstorm bringing several inches of accumulating snow across West Texas and eastern New Mexico, as well as a dangerous severe weather outbreak likely to unfold into the middle of next week across the deep south, followed by a polar vortex plunge of temperatures across the northern United States. What you need to know with that and much more in this weather forecast. If you guys are new to the channel and have yet to subscribe, hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates here on this channel. I cover Canada, the United States, and the tropics here, so definitely hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates. So looking here at the hazards across the United States as a whole, not much going on except down here to the south across Texas here into West Texas in particular, and southeastern and eastern New Mexico. That in the pink shaded colors here, those are winter storm warnings that have been hoisted across these areas for heavy wet snow that will be accumulating over the next day or so, along with some winter weather advisories there mixed in into the purple areas here into West Texas. So looking here at those winter storm products and what they mean, winter storm warnings are the highest level of where you see the highest level of severity here with these alerts. You can see significant snow, sleet, or ice, but in this case, we're going to be talking about heavy wet snow. So the confidence is high that a winter storm that will be producing heavy snow and will cause significant impacts will be across West Texas into eastern and southeastern New Mexico. And with those winter weather advisories, that means wintry weather is expected. Exercise caution here, especially when traveling. And again, do not travel unless you necessarily need to. With this system and why we're seeing the snowfall across this area is because we have a large low pressure system developing all the way south here into West Texas and across the southwestern United States, and over top of this we have a ridge over top. So again, this is kind of like a roadblock. We don't have a lot of movement in the weather pattern, so that means this low pressure system will kind of meander across the southern United States through the day today, and really as we go into the day tomorrow on your Saturday, November 26th, before we start to see that storm system move to the east going in towards late this weekend. Looking at the precipitation and what the radar could look like going into later on this afternoon, we got some scattered rain showers, maybe some rumbles of thunder across central Texas here. This should be all liquid rainfall across those areas, but to the west, far west Texas into southeastern New Mexico, you can start to see these blues showing up here, and the deeper blues as well, with those 1 to perhaps 2 inch per hour snowfall rates. Definitely not out of the realm of possibility going into later this afternoon across those areas, and that will continue into the overnight hours. And again, some thunderstorms could be possible across coastal Texas, getting into southeast Texas here, and some of those storms could be a little feisty with some heavy rainfall here, some smaller hail, and some gustier winds, probably more likely under 60 miles per hour, but definitely some gustier winds with these storms. And again, we have that snowfall on the system's backside with that cooler air starting to accumulate. That will continue through the day on Saturday before we start to see that rainfall move to the east across East Texas, up into Oklahoma, into portions there of Louisiana as we get into Saturday afternoon, and then finally lifting up into the middle Missouri Valley as we head into Sunday morning and into the western Ohio Valley as well during the midday hours on Sunday. And again, the heavy rainfall will continue to move up into places like Indianapolis, Ohio, getting into portions of Kentucky, trailing down toward the Atlanta, Georgia area, Mobile, Alabama. We could have some scattered showers and storms with that cold front with this system as it pushes through during the day on Sunday. And I'm not expecting any severe weather with this on Sunday. It's going to be coming through at an unfavorable time of day. This will be coming through during the morning hours here between about 6 a.m. and noon time frame, so I'm not really worried about a severe weather outbreak with this particular system. But looking back down to the south, we have all of that colder air starting to wrap around on the system's backside. We got some 30s showing up here into West Texas, southeastern portions of New Mexico with those winter storm warnings, and this is where we could see several inches of accumulation of wet snowfall across this area. Anywhere from 4 to as much as 12 inches cannot be ruled out of snowfall across southeastern New Mexico in particular, but even bleeding into portions of West Texas as well, going all the way through Sunday into the Sunday midday hours. So that will be something to continue to watch. Looking at the overall impacts, if you guys are out there traveling, in the yellows here, those are minor impacts getting into West Texas. In the orange, that is a moderate impact. And then in the bright red here, that is actually major impacts. So that does mean, you don't want to be on the roads with these, snowfall accumulations, especially across the deep south here where we're not used to driving in all of this snowfall. And looking at these potential winter storm impacts, again, we do have those moderate and major impact zones across West Texas and southeastern New Mexico. That does mean expect the disruptions to your daily life, especially when driving. Also here with those major impacts, expect considerable disruptions here to your daily life, which means dangerous or impossible driving conditions. Avoid travel if possible. And again, widespread closures and disruptions to infrastructure may occur during this as well, especially with the heavy nature of the snowfall. And if you have any of those trees that have leaves on them down there across the deep south as well. But in the other side of this, we definitely have some heavy rainfall on the way as well over the next 48 to 72 hours. Very heavy rainfall across much of Texas, getting especially into southeastern Texas there toward Houston, getting into portions of Louisiana and southern Mississippi toward the Jackson, Mississippi area, and then moving over there toward the Alabama as well. And then we'll see some moderate rainfall accumulations across portions of the Ohio Valley here in the blues. Those are rainfall amounts anywhere from a half an inch to just over an inch of rain. But where you see the purples here across much of the deep south, that is around 1 to 2 inches of rain. And then in the reds or even peach colored areas, those are around 2 to 4 inches of rain as we head through the next 72 hours. And that's why the Weather Prediction Center's day 1 excessive rainfall outlook does have this red shaded area near the Houston area. This is a moderate risk of flash flooding across this area. This is pretty rare, so we'll have to continue to watch this. We could have some flash flood warnings and flash flood emergency type alerts down here if we get those training of those showers and storms over those same areas here that could produce some of that moderate flash flooding event. So that we'll continue to watch that. As it pushes to the east, it'll lose a little bit of its oomph, but we'll definitely still have a marginal risk for excessive rainfall and some isolated flash flood warnings across this area into southern Arkansas, far east Texas, much of Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and southwestern portions there of Alabama going into your Saturday time frame as well. But looking back to the west, we got another intense storm system starting to take shape across the Pacific Northwest and southwestern Canada as we turn into early next week. On your Monday, November 28th time frame, you can see this very large trough starting to dig down across the western United States, and that is as we have a very large, very expansive ridge of high pressure across the northeastern Pacific Ocean all the way up into Alaska and the Aleutian Islands. That will mean that what goes up must come down again, and again, this trough will be digging in across the west. That will continue on your Tuesday. Again, we have ahead of the storm system, we have that ridge start to develop, and then we have a very big cold pocket of air behind this system with this trough, and that will start to eject into the middle of the country toward the mid-Mississippi Valley and Ohio valleys as we get in towards that Wednesday, November 30th time frame. And yet another storm system will be moving into the Pacific Northwest during this time frame, bringing more heavy rainfall and snow to the Pacific Northwest and up into British Columbia as well, and to Canada going in towards the very end of November. Looking at your temperatures out there on your Monday, November 28th, we have widespread 40s and 50s across much of the northeastern United States, around the Great Lakes, the Northeast, getting back here into parts of the upper Midwest, across this deep south, especially along the immediate Gulf Coast into the coastal southeast areas, across the Carolinas, down into Florida. We'll see widespread 60s and 70s across this area. Lower 80s can be expected across the southern Florida peninsula, so that will be something to watch. And then across the Northwest, again, those teens and 20s for highs with that colder air on Monday. You can definitely see some of that colder air starting to sneak a little bit farther to the southeast on your Tuesday, November 29th, rounding out the month of November. Highs in the teens and 20s across these areas, even some single digits in some of the higher elevations. We have a very strong cold front moving through on Tuesday, and this concerns me for a severe weather outbreak early next week, as we have 70s and some 60s showing up here across much of the deep south and the Gulf Coast. And then as we go into Tuesday night, these are your minimum temperatures. These are your low temperatures here as we go into Tuesday night. A lot of areas here are near 0 0 degrees across portions of the Rockies, getting back into the northern plains, across the Dakotas there. And again, even places like the upper Midwest, Des Moines, Iowa, up toward the Twin Cities will be in the lower 20s getting into your Tuesday night time frame. And again, the strong cold front will continue to move on to the south and east. And that is why we do have the threat for severe weather, and has been raised to a 30% or an enhanced risk on the day 5 probability outlook here from the Storm Prediction Center. Now, this is very rare. I haven't seen this in quite some time, where the Storm Prediction Center issues a day 5 enhanced risk. So this is something serious that we may have to keep an eye on as we go into Tuesday, November 29th. This covers portions of southern Arkansas, much of north central Louisiana, and western Mississippi, getting close to the Jackson, Mississippi area, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and getting into southern Arkansas there. But we also have this 15% shading or slight risk here expanded up toward the Memphis area, getting into West Tennessee, much of north central Mississippi, the Little Rock area, getting back into East Texas, just to the east of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex towards Tyler, Texas. These are some areas that we'll have to watch going into that Tuesday timeframe. And understanding these severe thunderstorm outlook categories could definitely give you an advantage to see what type of severe weather you could see in your neck of the woods going into the early and middle portion of next week. So in that yellow shaded area, level 2 of 5, that is a slight risk or 15% shading of severe weather within a 50-mile radius of your location. This does mean increased confidence that some storms will contain damaging winds, severe hail, and tornadoes. Again, this is more isolated to scattered severe storms, and a few of those could be significant. But as I was showing you, a very rare enhanced risk outlook here for day 5 across portions of southern Arkansas, north central Louisiana, and into portions there of western Mississippi. That does mean a level 3 of 5, which is kind of the middle of the road here in the categories, which means high confidence that several of those storms will contain damaging winds, severe hail, and tornadoes. And I wouldn't even rule out some strong tornadoes potentially unfolding early next week. And some of those storms, again, will be scattered to numerous with severe warnings and tornado warnings possibly early next week. We'll have to keep an eye on this as we get into early next week, because there is some wiggle room here. We could see an upgrade potentially to a moderate risk. That is definitely not out of the realm of possibility, so that will be something we're tracking. And the reason why I say that this early in the game for a possible moderate risk upgrade into early next week, dew points will be rising well into the 60s, if not lower 70s, across much of the Dixie Alley region, getting into the Gulf Coast here on your Tuesday evening time frame. We'll have a very energetic upper level jet stream here in 200 millibar layer, screaming out of the west southwest here around 140 knots, if not a little bit stronger. And then rounding the base of this trough, we'll definitely have a very powerful mid-level jet at 500 millibars here, screaming in here around 80 to 100 knots, if not a little bit stronger as well. And a very, very appreciable low-level jet here in the 850 millibar layer that'll be over 50 knots across portions of the Deep South, getting up into the Ohio Valley. So this is a very serious setup, and we'll definitely have to continue to watch it, because the kinematics are there, and there are signs that the instability is starting to shape up as well. So that does mean the overall magnitude of the severe weather threat is going to increase. So looking here at what the radar could look like, again, this will change a lot between now and then, as we're still several days out here, again, 5 days out from this event. But it does look like here this model is starting to pinpoint maybe some supercellular activity across portions of Mississippi, southern Arkansas, getting into Louisiana, and might even get into far east Texas, getting up into Tennessee, western Alabama. We have to definitely watch this, because these individual supercells could be the ones to produce those damaging winds, those large hailstones, and also those strong tornadoes potentially early on next week, and that will sweep on off to the east. But we also will have a cold side to this system, potentially bringing a swath of some lighter snowfall accumulation somewhere across the upper Midwest and the middle Mississippi Valley region here. The European forecast model showing anywhere from 1 to potentially up to 4 inches of snow across places like northwest Wisconsin, the Twin Cities here into southern and central Minnesota, getting back here toward the Rockies. But in comparison, the GFS not as bullish, and also a little bit farther to the east and southeast with the track. Doesn't have a lot of moisture up in this area, but still some lighter accumulations, but heavier accumulations on this model run toward the Colorado Rockies and getting up into southeastern Wyoming. So we'll continue to watch that as we get a little bit closer to that early and middle portion of next week. But turning into your Wednesday to round out the month of November, on Wednesday, November 30th, again, we have all of those colder temperatures up to the north, that will be serving for the focus for that snowfall potential. We got teens and 20s, even some low 30s up here across the upper Midwest and the northern plains. To the southeast, we have all those warmer temperatures fueling that severe weather outbreak even as we go potentially into Wednesday, November 30th. And that will bring possibly a line of thunderstorms from the Ohio Valley, from Ohio into Indiana, Kentucky, down through Tennessee, and much of the Gulf Coast regions here into portions of Georgia and getting into Alabama, Mississippi as we go into Wednesday morning and Wednesday afternoon. And then we'll see just general rain showers with some embedded rumbles of thunder into portions of the Northeast. But as we get into Thursday, but I don't think we'll see any severe weather, as we'll see less instability and less wind shear across this region. We could have some wraparound moisture across southeastern Canada. We'll have to watch for a potential snowstorm there as we get in towards the late portion of next week with a 972 millibar low there. And then look at this, back off to the west, another significant storm system digging in across the Pacific Northwest, a 997 millibar low there, bringing some heavy mountain snow across this area and some very heavy rainfall potentially into Northern California, Oregon, and Washington during that period. Looking at the liquid precipitation here with these two storm systems, we're going to be seeing here the first one off to the east. Again, some heavier rains with those very strong thunderstorms down across the southeast, getting up into the mid-Atlantic as we head towards the Wednesday and Thursday time frame here into next week. And then that renewed storm system across the Pacific Northwest, bringing some very appreciable rainfall amounts across western Washington, western Oregon, potentially northern California as we get in towards that Wednesday, Thursday time frame. Some of these rainfall amounts there and around the Seattle, Portland, Oregon areas here could be averaging around 2 to 4 inches, if not a little bit higher. So that will be something to watch with some flooding concerns across the Pacific Northwest during that time. And then those heavy mountain snows as well across portions of the Pacific Northwest here, refilling those ski resorts with those very heavy snowfall accumulations that could be closing in on 2 feet across those areas into the upper elevations of Washington and Oregon State. And then that snowfall across southeastern Canada, across Ontario, getting into western Quebec here, we could be talking about double-digit snowfall accumulations there before we're said and done as we get through late next week. Then the pattern change does occur, and this is going to be producing some very cold temperatures. The polar vortex stretching or disruption event will be coming into play as we turn the page into early December. The Climate Prediction Center's forecast here does call for likely below normal temperatures across much of the west and the northwest going into the very end of November and going all the way through at least Sunday, December 4th, with those warmer conditions here in the leading edge of these storm systems here across the East Coast and into Florida, with likely above normal temperatures there during that time. And again, a very active lower 48 across the United States going all the way through at least December 4th. We get that first storm system bringing above normal precipitation across much of the east, and then across the 2/3 of the western half of the United States. Yeah, we're going to be talking about some above normal precipitation there as well, with a little bit potentially of a dry slot across the Texas Panhandle, western Kansas, back down there into New Mexico and southeastern Arizona. That's where we see the polar vortex come into play. Again, we have all these colder temperatures up into Canada and around the North Pole. That will start to bring its way farther to the south with a lot of these colder temperatures. Those 0-degree readings, those below normal, those below zero temperatures will be moving farther to the south as we get into Thursday, December 1st. That will dig its way into the northern plains and upper Midwest as we get into Friday, December 2nd. And these are your daytime highs on Thursday, December 1st. Yeah, daytime highs below zero across much of British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, even into Western Ontario, Canada as well. And then again, high temperatures in the teens and 20s across North Dakota, getting into northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, then back towards portions there of northeastern Montana as well. Farther to the south, we'll have the 40s, maybe some 50s down there along the immediate Gulf Coast on your Thursday. And then Friday, we see high temperatures here struggling to get into the single digits potentially across the Dakotas, especially North Dakota, getting back into eastern portions of Montana, northwestern Minnesota, with even teens of high temperatures on your Friday, getting all the way south towards Nebraska with a very strong cold front here across the Wisconsin, western Iowa, getting back into the central plains with 60s across the Texas Panhandle, but several hundred miles to the north, yes, we'll be in the single digits and the teens across those areas. And not to mention, yes, we do have wind chills as well, and it is not out of the realm of possibility this is a polar vortex stretching or disruption event. So yes, we could be seeing wind chills down near -30, maybe -40 degrees across especially southern Canada. This could be a little bit overdone, but I do think that we could definitely see some -20, if not -30 degree wind chills coming into play, especially into southern Canada here into the U.S. side of things. I think we'll see wind chills at either between -5 and -15 degrees Fahrenheit, but still some very cold wind chills there, maybe some wind chill advisories being hoisted by the late portion of next week across those areas. Then as we go towards that, second week in November, the second week in December, we're going to have a very potent upper level jet stream here, kind of parallel across the United States. That's that zonal flow pattern here with the active southern jet stream. And we're going to have what we call kind of an overrunning type of storm system where we see kind of an atmospheric river of moisture over the same areas. We got dew points rising back into the 50s and 60s, even some 70-degree dew points down here into coastal Texas once again as we get into that Sunday, December 4th time frame, and that's where we see the temperatures return back into the 70s. A lot of moisture content in this environment. Very, very strong difference in temperatures here. Into southeastern Oklahoma, we could be in the lower 70s, but northwestern Oklahoma into the panhandle there will be in the 30s and 40s as we get into potentially late next weekend, and that will mean the battle zone between where we could get some snowfall or where we could get some heavy rainfall. So that will be something to watch. Looking here at the next 24 hours, though, going in towards that time frame, December 3rd into December 4th, yeah, we could be talking about significant rainfall here somewhere across the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys, getting back into the Lake of the Ozarks here according to the European forecast model. Looking at the GFS model, a lot more bullish here and a little bit farther to the south, but across still the Ohio Valley, getting into the western Tennessee Valley and much of the deep south as well, with several inches of rainfall accumulation possible as we get into that first and even second week in December. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely appreciate it. If you guys liked the video, press the thumbs up button down below. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, guys. Thank you all for all the new subscribers out there. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. And also remember to hit that notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Friday, everyone. A great weekend ahead, and I'll see you guys in the next video.